Hello students, how are you doing today? This is Amritesh and today we will be taking the topic metals and non-metals. But before we proceed with the chapter, I will request to the new students to subscribe and press the bell icon so that you get the updates of my latest videos. Thank you. Okay, so let's start with the chapter metals and non-metals. Okay, if we see around us, we can see a variety of substances, a variety of things that are around us like table, chair, bed, blackboard, chalk, duster, etc. Okay, you can see the trees, you can see different kinds of animals, you can see different type of other things like machines, and you can also see some ornaments, gold, made up of gold, silver, etc. Okay, so if we categorize the substances that are found in the nature, we can categorize them into two different parts. One is the artificial or man-made substance, other one is the natural substances. So when we talk about the artificial substances, these are those substances which are not found in the nature by automatically. Okay, they are artificially made by human beings like chair, tube light, table, chalk, duster, watch, etc. And when we talk about the natural substances, these are those substances which are found naturally in the environment like coal, petroleum, gold, silver, iron, tin, etc. Okay, so when we categorize the natural substances, we get two different categories. One is metal, other one is non-metal. So this entire chapter is about the physical and the chemical properties of these two types of substances, which are metals and non-metals. And one by one we will see all the physical properties, and we will also see few of the chemical properties of metals and non-metals, like how they behave chemically and what are their physical properties, what are their physical appearances, and how it affects the property of the substances. So let's take the physical properties one by one. Okay, so if we discuss that what a metal is, we will come to know like these are those kind of substances which are very hard, they have shine, they are malleable, like the terms that I am using right now we will be discussing in details later in the chapter. Okay, so you can just listen to the terms now and we will be discussing it in details, like they are malleable, they are fusible, they are ductile, they are sonorous, etc. Okay, and the substances in which all these properties are found, they come under the categories of metal. There are few exceptions as well, we will take it further when we discuss the properties. Okay, so the examples of metals can be iron, gold, silver, aluminium, copper, sodium, calcium, etc. Okay, and when we talk about the chemical properties, okay, how do we define the metals according to the chemistry? We can say that these are those type of substances, these are those elements which has the tendency to donate electrons, which can lose their electrons easily. They are called metals. When they undergo some kind of reaction, they are the substances, they are the metals, they are the reactants who donate, who share, who transfer their electrons easily. Okay, so now we take the physical properties of the metals. Like the first property that we take is the malleability. Okay, what do we mean by malleable? Malleable means, before discussing the malleability, I just want to ask you students that have you seen the aluminium foil that our mother uses in the kitchen for wrapping the food that is kept in the lunchbox? Have you seen that? Okay, so you can see here, you can see this is the image of an aluminium foil, and this is used in every home for wrapping the food. Okay, so how this aluminium foil has been made? You can see this is a sheet which is very thin. Okay, so this is the property of the metal This is called malleability, that the metals can be beaten into thin sheets. Okay, so now you can understand what a malleable element is. Okay, it can be beaten into thin sheets. Okay, and we have some of the elements which are very malleable, like gold and silver, and other metals are malleable in nature. Okay, they are good, they are having the good malleability. Okay, and the high malleable elements are gold and silver. You can see the gold and silver are the two examples of the most malleable substances, most malleable elements. Okay, so now we will move to the another topic. Okay, that is the conductivity. Conductivity means the tendency, the property of the metals to allow the electric current and heat to pass through them. Okay, that is called conductivity. Have you seen that when you heat a metal? Okay, so one end it is kept in the uh, like flame, and other one you are holding at home, then you can feel the hotness of the metal in your hand as well, because the heat has transferred from one end to the another. Okay, so this is called the conductivity property of the elements. Okay, for the metals, they conduct electricity. Like you have seen that your wires, the wires in the home are made up of metals. Okay, the thing that is inside the plastic coating, that is the metal, and it is conducting the electricity from one point to the another point. So metals like iron rod, nail, copper wire, etc. are very good conductors of heat and electricity. So now we move to the another physical property of the metals, that is ductility. What do we mean by ductility? Like, ductile means we can draw thin wires of them. Like you have seen the electric wires in your house, they are in length, they are stretched in length. So the elements which are inside the wire, they has been drawn into thin wire like thread like structure, and this property is called ductility. Okay, so the elements like the metals like aluminium and copper are used for making the electrical wires. Okay, they are used for electric connections. And when we talk about the most ductile and most ductile element, then we can say that the gold is the most ductile element. So can you guess that how much length of gold can be drawn with 1 gram of gold? Okay, this is an example of wire. And when we ask about the things, the metals that can be used for wiring is the copper wire and the aluminium wire. You can see these wires are used for the electrical conductivity. Okay, so I would like to ask you one question before we proceed ahead to the another physical property, that you can give the answer in the comment box, that how much length can you draw from 1 gram of gold? How much length can you draw from 1 gram of gold? Okay, you have to give your answer in the comment section. Okay, so the next physical property that we are going to discuss is the sonorous. Okay, have you ever dropped a coin from your hand? Have you ever dropped a coin from hand? Okay, when it strikes the ground, there is a like sharp sound coming from that strike. Okay, and that property is called sonorous. And that property is called sonorous. When you beat a metal, it produces a distinct kind of sound. Okay, that is called sonorous property. That is called ringing property. Okay, the metal rings. You have your bell in your house, you have your bell in your school. Okay, the school bell is made up of metal. Okay, when that rings, we know that, okay, it is ringing, the bell is ringing. How do we know? Due to the sonorous property of the elements. Okay, so this is called the ringing property of metals. Okay, and it totally depends upon the density and the temperature of that element. Okay, so have you seen an electric bell, or have you seen the bell that is used in your school? Okay, see, this is a bell that we usually see in our school or in temples, as well as we see these kind of electric bells that is also used in our school, or that is also used for call bells. Okay, so this is due to the sonorous property of the metal, which is the ringing property of the metal, due to which this is used for making the bells. Okay, okay. So now we are coming to the next physical property, that is called luster. Okay, what do you mean by luster? Luster means shine. Okay, have you seen the shine of the metals? When you see a metal that is shining, okay, it has a appearance that is shiny in the nature. Okay, many ornaments are made from gold, platinum, silver due to this property. They shine and it looks very wonderful when you see them. Okay, so you can see here, this is an example of like ornaments that we use. Okay, and you can see how shiny it is. Okay, so this shine is called the luster. Okay, and it is a physical property of the metal, that they are reflecting the light which is falling on them. Okay, they are a very good reflector, they are very good reflectors. Okay, so they reflect the light which falls on them, which incidents on them, and due to which the shine is coming out. Okay, so examples you can note: gold, silver, copper, platinum, etc. The metals that you know, the hard shiny metals that you know, they all come under this example. Okay, so you have seen iron. Okay, so iron is very hard, right? So the iron, the gold, silver, aluminium, these all things are very hard in nature. Like, you cannot cut it with a knife, you cannot break it with your bare hands. Okay, so this property is called hardness. Okay, so due to the property of the malleability and ductility, the metals are very hard and very strong. Okay, and there are few other kind of elements, metals, which are also not very hard and strong. They are also under exception, like sodium, calcium, potassium. These all are soft metals and they can be cut with a knife. So the example of hardness can be iron, copper, aluminium, gold, silver, etc. And the exceptions can be sodium, potassium, calcium, etc. Okay. When you see metals, what do you see? They are generally solid at the room temperature. Like, they are not liquid except the mercury and gallium. They are the two metals which are liquid at room temperature. You must have seen the silver part of the thermometer. Okay, and that is filled with mercury, and that is liquid at room temperature. Okay, so what do you mean by solid? Solid, we mean that the particles of those substances are very tightly packed, very close to each other. Okay, and they make them solid. They are very condensed. The particles are very condensed. Okay, at the room temperature, the normal room temperature, the metals are solid. Okay, in state, and since their particles are highly condensed, they are highly tightly packed, very closely packed, they have very high melting and boiling point. Okay, the melting and the boiling point, you have to heat it to a very large extent, to the very high temperature before they melt. They can bear a high range of temperature. Okay, so they have a very high melting point and they have very high boiling point. Okay, the reason is the particles are very closely packed. Okay, and high tensile strength. What do we mean by tensile strength? Tensile strength means the strength. Okay, the strength means how strong it is. Okay, you can see the iron, the things which is made up of iron, they are very strong, you cannot break it. Okay, you cannot stretch it with your hand. Okay, this is called tensile strength. Okay, the metals which can bear the strain. Strain means the pulling. When you pull it, the strain are termed as having the high tensile strength. Okay, and this is one of the physical properties of metals. Okay, again the exceptions are sodium, potassium, zinc, arsenic, antimony, etc. They are soft metals and they can be broken with the hand. They have low tensile strength. Okay, now the physical properties of the metals are coming to an end, and again now we will start with the chemical properties of metals. Okay, like chemical, what do we mean by chemical properties? Like, this is something that the chemical the elements, the metals and the non-metals behave, okay, when they are coming in contact with certain other chemicals, okay, certain other metals, certain other non-metals and some other compounds. How do they behave? This is something that we are going to read in the chemical properties of metals. Okay, first one is when we expose them to the oxygen, or when we expose them in the atmosphere, in our environment, okay, where in with the air, okay, when we expose them in the air, how do they react? Okay, this is called reaction with oxygen. It is also called oxidation. It is also called oxidation. So generally the metals react with oxygen to form metallic oxide. Metal plus oxygen gives you metal oxide. Metal plus oxygen gives you metal oxide. And when you dissolve it with water, when you dissolve these oxides with water, okay, they are basic in nature. They have the pH greater than 7. Okay, they have the pH greater than 7. Okay, and when you do a litmus paper test for testing the nature of the chemical, the nature of the oxide, that will turn the red litmus paper to blue. Okay, this is when you treat the red litmus paper to that oxide. Okay, it will turn it to the blue. Okay, so take an example, like when we expose iron into the air, okay, and the air also has some humidity, okay, so when the iron reacts with the humidity, that is water and oxygen present in the atmosphere, it converts into iron oxide. Okay, it is called iron oxide. Ferrous oxide, this is called, this proper, this phenomena is called, this process is called rusting. Okay, this process is called rusting. So when the iron gets rusted, it becomes weaker in tensile strength. It becomes weak, okay, and can be broken down easily, and wear and tear of the element takes place. Okay, you have also seen, you must have seen some copper vessels in your home, in your kitchen, uh, that your mother uses for different purposes in the kitchen. Okay, you can see a green color coating on that copper vessel. Okay, what is that green copper coating? Okay, that green color coating is a mixture of copper hydroxide, okay, CuOH whole 2, copper hydroxide and copper carbonate. Okay, when this copper reacts with oxygen and moisture along with the carbon dioxide, it gets converted into the mixture of copper hydroxide and copper carbonate. These two things get deposited on the upper layer of the copper and forms the oxide. Okay, this is also called the process of oxidation. Okay, it is getting oxidized, oxygen is being added to the element. Okay, so we can also term it as corrosion. Corrosion means getting corroded, getting oxidized, and like this is wear and tear of the surface of the metal, that is getting weathered. Okay, corrosion is an oxide reaction with atmospheric oxygen in the presence of water on the surface of the metal, as we discussed earlier that in the presence of oxygen and water, the corrosion, the oxidation takes place. Okay, and during the corrosion, metal gets converted into oxides, hydroxides, sulfides, etc. Okay, and the corrosion of iron is called rusting. Okay, the corrosion of iron is called rusting. So what are the two main conditions which are necessary, which are essential for rusting or corrosion? First one is moisture, that is water, and second one is oxygen, that is air. Okay, so you can see the example of rusting of iron. Iron plus oxygen plus water gives you Fe2O3, that is iron oxide. Okay, and this is brown in color. Okay, and when you will dissolve this red rust into water, and you will shake it, okay, and use that water with the litmus paper, it will turn the red litmus into blue color. Okay, so now we are coming to the prevention of corrosion. Okay, how can we prevent corrosion? See, what was the main reason for corrosion? That was the contact of oxygen and water with the surface of the metal. And how would it happen if we cut the contact of that oxygen and water with the surface of the element? If we apply some kind of coating on the surface of that metal, then definitely we will stop the contact of oxygen and water with the surface of the element, with the surface of the metal. How do we do that? We can apply some kind of paint. Okay, first is painting. We can apply some kind of paint on the surface of the metal. We will color it with some paint. Okay, and that color, that enamel will stop the contact of water and oxygen with the direct surface of the metal. Okay, second thing is greasing, applying some oil kind of thing. Okay, you have seen grease, that is a thick lubricant that is used for coating. Okay, that is used for reducing the friction, okay, into the machines. And when we apply grease over the surface of the metal, then definitely it cuts the contact of moisture and air from the direct surface of that particular metal. Then electroplating. How do we do electroplating? We use one element which is less corrosive, which is like that is not corroding at all, or very less corroding, very less oxidizing when coming in the contact with moisture and air over the surface of that particular element, that particular metal whom we are trying to save. Okay, we apply that coating of that metal over the surface of that element, and we protect it from the corrosion. Fourth one is galvanization. What do we mean by galvanization? We apply a coating of zinc. We apply a coating of zinc on the metal whom we want to save. Zinc oxide is a like impermeable. Okay, like the zinc oxide, when zinc comes in the contact with air and moisture, it forms the coating of zinc oxide. Okay, and when zinc oxide is formed, there is no further corrosion of zinc, and the layer of the zinc below the surface of that coat remains protected from further corrosion, and the layer of the metal whom we wanted to save under that coating of zinc, that also remains protected from getting corroded. Okay, in this way we can save the corrosion, in this way we can save the rusting. Okay, and see, this is an example of iron nail which has got rusted. Can you see? This is the rusting. You must have seen these kind of things in your home when you leave the when you leave the things made up of iron on your rooftop or anywhere in your house which is coming in direct contact with the moisture and air. It gets converted into this kind of structure. You must have seen that. Okay, and one question comes here, that when the uh, iron nail, like you must have seen the iron nail, when the iron nail gets rusted, the weight of the iron nail increases, decreases, or remain constant? You have to reply in the comment section. You give me the answer of this question, that what will happen to the weight of the iron nail after rusting? Will it increase, decrease, or remain constant? Okay, okay. Now, we have seen that when the metals are coming in contact with the oxygen and humidity, moisture, it get converted into oxide. And what is the nature of that oxide? Like when we say nature of the oxide, we mean that whether that oxide is acidic or that oxide is basic in nature, whether that will be having the pH less than 7 acidic or more than 7, that is basic. Okay, so before also I told you that when we dissolve the rust into a small quantity of water, little amount of water, the rust, when it get dissolved in the water and tested with the litmus, it gives the red litmus a blue color. Okay, that shows that the metallic oxides are basic in nature. Okay, it will always convert the red litmus into blue. Okay, this will show you that the metal oxides are basic in nature. Okay, now we have discussed about the metals, then how about the non-metals? What happens when non-metals react with the oxygen? Okay, what will happen when the non-metal will react with the oxygen? They will also form the non-metal oxides, and contrasting with the nature of the oxides made from the metals, they are acidic in nature. The metal oxide was basic in nature. Now the non-metallic oxides are acidic in nature. They will convert the blue litmus paper into red color. Okay, how can we test that? We can test, like, we can take a small amount of sulfur, okay, and into the deflagrating spoon. The deflagrating spoon is like this, you can see, like this is the example of rusting of the iron that was with the metals. Okay, and this is converting the red litmus paper into blue color. And now this is deflagrating spoon. You can see this spoon, this is the long spoon. Okay, in this spoon you can take a small amount of sulfur, and you can, like, you can heat it. Okay, when you will heat it, it will start producing fumes, it will start producing the smoke, and you have to introduce this deflagrating spoon into a glass tumbler or into a glass jar, and you will have to cover it with a lid so that the smoke settle inside that glass tumbler, and it do not escape out of that container. Okay, and after some times when it is settled, you need to remove the lid gently, and you have to add a small quantity of water in that tumbler, and then quickly replace the lid. You also take out that spoon. Okay, and what will happen, you have to shake it gently. Okay, shake that small quantity of water into the fume of that sulfur. Okay, and then you can pour that water into a glass, and then you can introduce the litmus paper that will convert the blue litmus into red color. Okay, and when this sulfur and oxygen, the sulfur dioxide gas is created when you mix the water. Okay, that will convert the sulfur dioxide into sulfurous acid, H2SO3. Okay, and this sulfurous acid will convert the red litmus paper, sorry, the blue litmus paper into red color. Okay, now what happens, what happens when you treat the metals with the water? Okay, here there is a mistake, like in the A section it is written for non-metals, it should be for metals. Okay, so please correct it. A section is for metals. When the metals are treated with water, there is generally, like, they do not react with water. All the metals, they do not react with water. Okay, but there are some metals which react very vigorously. Okay, they are highly reactive with water, and when they react with water, they produce metal oxide and hydrogen gas. They produce metal oxide and hydrogen gas, and these metal oxides are soluble in water, which further gets converted into metal hydroxide. Okay, which finally gets converted into the metal hydroxide, and the hydrogen gas is released. Okay, so the final product will be the metal hydroxide and the hydrogen gas will be released. Okay, so what happens when the metal is reacted with water? It forms the metal oxide and hydrogen, and further, due to the dissolving properties of metal oxide in water, it will convert the metal oxide into metal hydroxide. Okay. Okay, and how we will be test the presence of hydrogen? We test the presence of hydrogen by bringing a burning matchstick or candle in contact with that gas coming out from the like test tube or the glass tumbler that you had taken. Okay, and there will be a popping sound. You must have seen when you are making popcorns at your home. Okay, into the cooker. Okay, what kind of sound is coming? Okay, that is called the popping sound, and that kind of sound you can observe when you bring a candle or a matchstick in front of that test tube or the glass tumbler in which that metal hydroxide was made. Okay, so when we use metal like sodium or potassium, they react with the cold water. Okay, they are highly reactive with the water. Okay, they even react with the cold water. And metals like magnesium react with warm water. Okay, and there are few also elements, metals like calcium. They react with water at the room temperature. Calcium is also reacting with water at room temperature. You must have seen when there is whitewashing going on at your home, the calcium is brought from the market and it is put into the water overnight. Okay, and there are bubbles coming out. Those bubbles are the bubbles of hydrogen. They are highly inflammable. You must not bring any burning object in front of that because that will catch fire. Okay, so and this reaction is highly exothermic. And what do I mean when I say it exothermic? A high amount of heat is released. Okay, and due to this property of exothermic, okay, the metals like sodium is kept in the kerosene. Okay, we keep the elements like sodium into kerosene because they will catch fire if they come in contact with the atmosphere, with the when they come in contact with the humidity of the atmosphere, and that is the water. Okay, that will catch fire. Okay, so can anybody say me give me the answer that why do sodium catch fire when it comes into the contact with the air? Okay, can you give me the answer in the comment section? Okay, so now when we come to the non-metals, the non-metals generally do not react with water. Okay, but some of the elements, some of the non-metals like phosphorus, that is highly reactive with the air, and to prevent the reaction, to prevent it from explosion, that is kept underwater so that the contact with the air is cut down and it remains preserved. Okay, phosphorus. Okay, now coming to the reaction with acid. Acid is a compound which is having the pH level less than 7. Okay, and it is a very dangerous chemical compound which can be hazardous to the human beings. Okay, so we should be very careful before we handle these kind of substances. Okay. Okay, can you also answer me in the comment section which is more harmful, acid or base? Which will cause more harm, acid or base? Can you give me the answer in the comment section? Okay, so now coming with the reaction with the dilute acid. Dilute acid means we have added water in the acid. Okay, we have added water in the acid. Okay, so when I say added water in the acid, there is a question right now here also that which statement is correct? We should add water to the acid or acid to the water. Can you reply me in the comment section? Okay, dilution means there is a added quantity of water in that acid. Okay, please reply which is correct. Adding water to the acid or acid should be added to the water. Which one is correct? Which process is correct? Okay, so with the metals, when we react metals, when we react the metals with the acid, they gives the salt of that metal, and the hydrogen gas is liberated in the back end. Okay, that is the byproduct. The hydrogen gas is liberated. Okay, and this presence of hydrogen gas again can be confirmed by bringing a burning matchstick or a candle near the gas, as we discussed earlier that there will be a popping sound coming from burning of that gas. Okay, so when metal is reacted with the dilute acid, the salt of that metal and hydrogen gases form. Okay, so this is generally done with all the acids, whether it is organic or the mineral acids. Okay, but there is an acid that is called nitric acid, HNO3. Okay, it is very good oxidizing agent, very strong oxidizing agent. So when the metals are reacting with the nitric acid, the hydrogen gas is not liberated because this is so much oxidizing agent. This is so much strong oxidizing agent that it converts the hydrogen into water. Okay, it adds oxygen to that hydrogen as well and converts it into water, and itself get converted into any of the oxides of the nitrogen like NO2, NO, okay, N2O, etc. Okay, but there are few elements, there are few metals which again react with a very dilute amount of HNO3 to evolve the hydrogen gas like magnesium and zinc. The reaction you can see here, magnesium when reacts with nitric acid, it gives you the MgNO3 whole 2 and hydrogen gas. Okay, this is a salt of magnesium. Okay, and for the non-metals, they generally do not react with the acids. Okay, so again, proceeding further with the chemical properties of the metals and non-metals, we have the fourth kind of reaction, that is the reaction with the base. Okay, like with the compounds which is having the pH more than 7. Like for the metals, the the reaction of metals, when we react with the base, it again releases the hydrogen gas. Okay, and like in many cases the metals have reacted with the sodium hydroxide to produce the hydrogen gas. Okay, and for non-metals, they are very they produce the different compounds, and it is highly complex for the level of the class 8. So we will discuss it when we come to the higher classes. Okay, so discussion for the reaction with base can be left for the higher classes, and you can just conclude it with the displacement reaction. How do the elements displace each other when they are reacted? Okay, like when we are reacting a copper sulfate with zinc, okay, the product will be zinc sulfate and the byproduct is copper. Here you can see that the copper from the copper sulfate has been replaced by the zinc, and copper has come out as a byproduct. Okay, it has been replaced by the zinc. So how it is happening? Okay, there is a concept of reactivity series. Okay, what do we mean by reactivity series? With the reactivity series, we mean that the order in which the metals are arranged according to their reactive nature, how reactive they are. Okay, there are some elements, some metals which are highly reactive. Again, there are some metals which are less reactive. Okay, so you can see the reactivity series here. Like it starts with the sodium, it starts with the potassium, again sodium, calcium, magnesium, aluminium, zinc, iron, etc. Okay, this is the more reactive elements, and again the less reactive elements are copper, mercury, silver, gold, platinum, etc. Okay, so the reactivity follows in the same order. Okay, the elements in this order coming up in the order. Okay, they will replace the elements which are below them. Okay, like potassium will replace the sodium, but sodium will not be able to replace potassium. There will be no reaction at all. Okay, like if the scenario would have been opposite, like we could have reacted ZnSO4 zinc sulfate with copper. Okay, then the resultant would be no reaction. Okay, there could have been no reaction. But when we are reacting copper sulfate with zinc, it is a displacement reaction where the copper is replaced by zinc, because in the reactivity series you saw that the zinc is coming uh, on the top from the copper. Okay, and it is replacing copper from the reaction. Okay, now where do we use the metals? Where do we use the metals? Like there are many use of metals in our day-to-day life. You have seen many machines, automobiles, the cars, the aeroplanes, the motorbikes, satellites, etc., and many utensils. These all things are made up of metals, and we use it in our daily day-to-day life. Okay, and the metals are also used in making wires like copper, aluminium. These are made like the wires are made from these elements, and they are very important in conduction of the electricity from the source to our houses. Okay, and some elements, some metals are used for making ornaments like copper, sorry, the gold, silver, and the platinum. These metals are used for making ornaments also. Okay, so now again, coming to the application of the non-metals. The non-metals are very important to our life, like oxygen that we breathe is a non-metal. Okay, so it is very much essential for our survival. We cannot survive without oxygen. Okay, some non-metals are also used for the growth of the plants. They are used in the fertilizers. Okay, like nitrogen, like phosphorus, like potassium. Okay, these are the important plant nutrients, okay, which the plant absorb for their growth and for their functioning. Okay, and some non-metals are used for water purification. Like you must have seen, we add chlorine to our wells where we want to purify the water. It is also used in the water purification plants, chlorine, to kill the microbes, to kill the germs, so that the water is purified. Okay, and we also use some non-metals as an antiseptic. Okay, when we get a cut, okay, like when we get a scar, we use these kind of antiseptics for treatment. Okay, like iodine. Okay, and some non-metals are used in the cracker, the fireworks that we enjoy in many of our festivals like Diwali. The crackers are used, and they have the non-metals like nitrogen and phosphorus. Okay, so here you can see some examples of the application of metals and non-metals. And now here comes an concept of alloys. What do you mean by alloy? Alloy is a solid mixture. Okay, it is a solid mixture of either two or more metals, or metal and a non-metal. Okay, they are mixed in certain proportion to make a better compound, which is, sorry, better mixture. Okay, that can be used for making different kinds of utensils. Okay, and they are used for different purposes, like making of satellites, the ships, etc. Stainless steel utensils that we use in our kitchen, in our daily day-to-day life, we can use alloys for them. Okay, okay, like Muns metal, it is an example of alloy which is having copper, uh, that is 60% of the total amount used, and the zinc for the 40%, and a few traces of iron is also mixed for making the Muns metal. It is very strong in nature. There are also alloys like duralium, okay, which is having the 90% of the aluminium and 4% of the copper, 1% manganese, and 0 to 1% of the manganese is mixed, okay, for making this duralium, and it is having a very great strength, very high strength, which is very strong, and it is used for making the aircrafts, the pressure cooker, automobiles like your cars. Okay, these are made up of the alloy named duralium. Okay, and the naval brass is used for making the marines and the engineering casting. Okay, the submarines, they are made from the naval brass. Okay, and some engineering casting are also done with the naval brass, and it is an alloy. Okay, So here we see that some of the metals like iron, sodium, calcium, they are very essential part of our body also. Okay, like where do you find the iron in our body? Please answer in the comment section. Okay, where do we find iron in our body? Okay, you can reply me in the comment section. Okay, here comes the end of the session. Okay, and we can just conclude the metals and the non-metals with the properties of their physical appearance and the chemical properties. So I hope you must have liked the session, and please reply in the comment section how did you like the lecture, and if you have any question please reply in the comment section and I will provide the answer of that. Thank you very much. Have a nice day and remain safe. Thank you.